A very good evening and welcome to Thursday night's edition of Primetime News here on MTV Sports. I'm Ramesh Rugal Bandara.
And I'm Krishna Panitharatna Viswara. The news, the look at your headlines.
The Supreme Court recommends the postponement of the Parliamentary Select Committee sessions that were to examine the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice. Deputy Speaker says Parliament has not received Supreme Court recommendations. Parliamentarian Iran Vikramatne says that the budget deficit is much higher than what it stated. Weather delays the launch of Sri Lanka's first ever communications satellite. Also making the headlines tonight, the suspect in the recent murder of a manager of a shipping company down Marine Drive arrested.
The Supreme Court has recommended the postponement of the Parliamentary Select Committee sessions that were to examine the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice until the court gives its determination on the interpretation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court made this recommendation when the request of the Court of Appeal for an interpretation of the Constitution with regard to several writ applications filed against the impeachment of the Chief Justice were taken up today.
According to the writ applications filed in the Court of Appeal against the impeachment of the Chief Justice under Standing Order 78A, the Parliamentary Select Committee does not have the judicial power to consider such an impeachment motion. The petitions noted that such a committee examining the impeachment motion is a violation of the Constitution. The Court of Appeal noted that the petitions required an interpretation of the Constitution and referred them to the Supreme Court. Thereby, the case was taken up by a three-judge bench comprising of Justices Nimal Gamani Amaratunga, Keshu Pawan and Priyasad Deb. Meanwhile, the petitioners filed a motion requesting court to issue an order preventing the Parliamentary Select Committee from convening tomorrow. The bench pointed out that as only the petitioners were present in court today, the other party should also be given an opportunity.
Thereafter, notice was issued for the Attorney General to appear before court today and court adjourned till 1:30 p.m. When court reconvened, Attorney General Paritha Fernando pointed out that the case had only been referred to the Supreme Court in order to obtain an interpretation of the Constitution. He argued that as a result, the Supreme Court does not have the power to issue a stay order or prevent parliamentary activities. After considering the submissions, the Supreme Court noted that such matters should be resolved in a manner that does not harm the cordial relations between the legislature and the judiciary.
Now, as you know, the Supreme Court procedure for hearing of these things take a while. There are certain steps that have to be taken. So in the exigencies of the present situation, the urgency of the present situation, the ground reality being that tomorrow Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, has been asked to come in the morning for the first sitting of this committee. We tendered an application to the Lordship of the Supreme Court asking for some order to be made so that tomorrow's hearing will not take place until the matter of the Constitution is sorted out. Having heard both sides, the court was pleased to ask the legislature, the Parliament, to consider the mutual friendship, the mutual coordination that must exist between three organs of government. So in taking that into consideration, their lordships were of the opinion that they should ask the members of the Committee of Parliament who are supposed to embark on this process tomorrow to hold on, to not to proceed with the hearing until their lordships settle this matter of the Constitution and until a final word is given on the matter.
The Parliamentary Select Committee, which will consider the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice, comprises of 11 individuals. 7 members of the committee represent the government, while 4 represent the opposition. Minister Anura Priyadarshana Yapa functions as the chairman of the committee, while Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva, Susil Premajanta, Rajita Senaratne, Dilan Pereira, Vimal Veerawangsa and Deputy Minister Niyamal Pereira make up the government representatives. The Parliamentary Select Committee also consists of UMP parliamentarians John Amaratunga and Lakshman Kiriyalla, TNA Parliamentary Group Leader R. Sambandhan and Bujita Herat of the DNA. Thereby, the committee will consider the 14 changes brought up against the Chief Justice, Dr. Shivani Bandaranayake. The impeachment motion, which was signed by 117 parliamentarians and ministers, was handed over to the Speaker recently. Meanwhile, two petitions taken up in the Court of Appeal yesterday requested court to issue an order preventing ministers Vimal Weerawangsa and Rajitha Senaratne from sitting in the Parliamentary Select Committee. The council representing the petitioners noted that the Chief Justice had given an unfavourable ruling against Minister Rajitha's wife and was therefore unfit to be a member of the PSC. The attorneys also pointed out that Minister Vimal Weerawangsa had to withdraw a case from court on several occasions after being taken up before the Supreme Court. They note that as a result of this, the two ministers could act in a vindicative manner when carrying out their duties in the Parliamentary Select Committee. The Court of Appeal noted that objections with regard to the ministers being members of the Parliamentary Select Committee can be filed before the committee itself. The Court of Appeal pointed out that the ministers may resign from their positions if such a charge was forwarded.
Now, speaking of news first, Deputy Speaker of Parliament Chandima Weerakudi said that Parliament has not been informed about the recommendations made by the Supreme Court for the Parliamentary Select Committee to defer its probe into the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice.
According to my knowledge, Parliament has not been informed about this. According to the provisions of the Constitution, the Speaker of Parliament appointed a Parliamentary Select Committee to inquire into the issue. This committee in turn should provide their recommendations within a period of 1 month. If there is to be an extension of time, a motion should be passed in Parliament to do this. So this is all I can say for now. I do not know and I cannot say if a recommendation can be issued or if one has already been issued in this regard.
The three-judge Supreme Court bench comprising of Justice Nimal Gamini Amaratunga, K. Sri Pavan and Priyasad Deb went on to say the following regarding the request made by the Court of Appeal on the interpretation of the Constitution. Here are some excerpts.
We have heard the Learned President's Council, who appeared in support of the reference numbers 3, 2012, 4, 2012, 5, 2012, 6, 2012 and 7, 2012, and the Learned Council, who appeared in support of the reference numbers 8, 2012 and 9, 2012. And we have also heard the Honourable Attorney General, who appeared on very short notice. The Court of Appeal, acting in terms of Article 125 of the Constitution, has referred the following question relating to the interpretation of the Constitution.
The Supreme Court statement also states,
Article 125(2) of the Constitution mandates that the question referred to the Supreme Court shall be determined within 2 months of the date of reference. In terms of Rule 64(1) of the Supreme Court Rules of 1978, certain procedural steps have to be followed before a determination is made by this court.
The Supreme Court statement further notes,
This court, whilst reiterating that there has to be a mutual respect and understanding founded upon the rule of law between Parliament and the judiciary for the smooth functioning of both institutions, wishes to recommend for the members of the Select Committee of Parliament that it is prudent to defer the inquiry to be held against the Honourable Chief Justice until this court makes its determination of the question of law referred to by the Court of Appeal. The desirability and paramount importance of acceding to these suggestions made by this court would be based on mutual respect and trust, and as something essential for the safeguarding of the rule of law and the interest of all persons concerned, and the ensuring that justice is not only done, but is manifestly and undoubtedly seem to be done.
On to other local news now. President Mahinda Rajapaksa concluded his 3-day official visit to Kazakhstan yesterday. Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Pires, who accompanied the president, stated that the visit had strengthened a number of sectors, especially the economic and political sectors. Now, President Mahinda Rajapaksa held discussions with the Kazakh President Nur Sultan Nazarbayev during his visit. During the meeting, the attention of the two leaders had been focused on the support that could be provided by Kazakhstan in promoting the tourism and trade sectors in Sri Lanka. President Rajapaksa also held discussions with the Kazakh Prime Minister.
A public meeting on how the 2013 budget will affect the people was held at the new town hall in Colombo today. The meeting was held under the auspices of opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe.
අද අපි පත්තරේ කියනවා විධායකයයි අධිකරණය අතර ගැටුණේ.
We read about the conflict between the executive and the judiciary in the papers. Now this has gone to courts. I wonder if there will be a conflict between Parliament and the judiciary. These are important matters in the Constitution. However, the main conflict is not any of these. The main conflict is the one between the income and expenditure of households. The income is not sufficient to cover the expenses. Until this is resolved, nothing can be done. A side of the Parliament is silent on this. There is another way to speak of this, that is to the media. But what is the media doing? Those at the forefront in the media are those who are given laptops by the president.
ඒත් අද මොකද්ද මාධ්‍ය කරන්නේ? මාධ්‍ය ඉස්සරහම ඉන්නේ ජනාධිපති ලැප්ටොප් සම්මානලාභී.
අයවැය තියෙන ඉතාම ප්‍රධාන ලක්ෂණය තමයි සුබ සාධන සියල්ලම කපාදු කළා.
What is significant in this budget is that the welfare measures have been cut. There are cuts in education, health and other relief, and the people have been driven to debt. A scheme where everyone will be forced to obtain loans on interest is being created in the country. This will be outside the ambit of Parliament. Without the Divinagama bill, they cannot proceed with this budget. Many of the proposals can only be implemented via the Divinagama bill. This is clearly being done based on the requirements of the International Monetary Fund. They are living while we die. That is what Divinagama means.
අපි නැති වෙලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ජීවත් වෙනවා. දිවිනගම කියන්නේ ඒකයි. දිවියෝ නගිනවා. අපි එළුවෝ පල්ලෙහාට වැටෙනවා.
මහරුහුණේ මහගිරුවායේ කුරහන් කතාව කිව්වට අද රටේ අපි සියලු දෙනා කන්නේ ඉන්දියාවෙන් ආනයනය කරන කුරහන්.
Today everyone is eating rice imported from India. This country receives grain 250 days of the year. However, we import green gram from Australia where there is 3 months of winter. Other items such as cowpea and unundu are imported from India and Malaysia. Grain is imported from America, but we live in an agricultural country.
ඇමරිකාවෙන් මෙහෙව් රටක මෙහෙව් කෘෂි කර්මාන්තයේ තියෙන රටක අපි ඉන්නවා.
Weather delayed the launch of Sri Lanka's first ever communications satellite. Space Systems engineer Rohitha Rajapaksa said that the launch of the satellite will be delayed by another 5 days.
The communication satellite was to be launched today from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in China. The satellite, named as Supreme Sat-1, is a joint venture between a private Sri Lankan institute that has invested in satellite communication and a Chinese entity. The Government Information Department says that the satellite will orbit above Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka will be only the third South Asian nation to own a satellite. Sri Lanka will be the 45th nation to operate a satellite.
Today's satellite launch will be delayed from 5 to 6 days due to the debris environmental issues out of space. There are some disturbances. Because of that, it will have to be delayed and there is no such problems in the payload or the launching vehicle. So we are expecting to get the reports tomorrow morning. So probably after that, we'll be able to confirm a date and a time. For as of now, it should be able to go to space within the next 4 to 5 days.